During President Trump's tour of Asia, the #2 issue after security and the threat of North Korea was by far trade. We all know by now that Trump sees the imbalance of imports from China and other Asian countries over U.S. exports entering those same markets, resulting in U.S. trade deficits as the leading cause of America's ailments, and Trump has pushed for more reciprocity in trade with the region. After concluding his trip to Beijing with President Xi, Trump announced that close to $250 billion of deals had been signed that would benefit the U.S. One of those deals was a $43 billion LNG proposal for Alaska, with Sinopec and the Bank of China partnering with the Alaska Gasline Development Corporation to ship gas from the northern part of the state down to the south, where it will be liquefied and then exported to China. Now, if you're a British Columbian, this is one tough pill to swallow, after our own province has seen an exodus of proposed capital for our LNG industry and our ambitions to ship ethical gas to Asia. First, it was the $36 billion Pacific Northwest LNG project that was cancelled by Petronas. Then the $28 billion Aurora LNG project, which was backed by Nexen, a Canadian subsidiary of Chinese oil giant CNOOC, was also scuttled. That is why this announcement stings BC and Canada the most. You see, China was perfectly willing to invest big billions in LNG in North America, just not in an uncertain regulatory environment like Canada. And what this deal underscores is that unlike the talking points we've been hearing for months from opponents of BC LNG development, that there is a global glut of gas and that is keeping prices artificially low and thus killing any chance for BC to land the billions of proposed investment dollars, well, there is indeed a market for multi-billion-dollar LNG export facilities on the west coast of North America. Shortly after Petronas pulled the plug on BC back in July, Andrew Leach, who chaired Rachel Notley's Climate Change Advisory Panel, wrote in Maclean's magazine, quote, "Market forces played a far bigger role in the decision to scrap the LNG project than many seem willing to acknowledge," unquote. Now, Mr. Leach, would those be the same market forces that resulted in Alaska landing a similar investment that British Columbia just lost? And can we once and for all acknowledge that BC's job-killing carbon tax is a negative force that has been detrimental to landing investment in this province? Look, when it comes to addressing the problems both the BC NDP and our federal Liberals say are killing the planet through accelerating climate change, there is no bigger scapegoat than coal. You're hearing Catherine McKenna, our Environment Minister, talk about it and how evil coal is this week over at COP23 in Bonn, Germany. But what you don't hear McKenna or anyone else willing to admit is that the most reliable and affordable way to transition the developing world off coal while not increasing energy poverty is to transition to cleaner burning natural gas. So why won't Canada's climate crusaders like McKenna, BC Environment Minister George Heyman, and our environmentalist saboteurs acknowledge this simple fact? Well, that is because they would no longer be able to demonize the oil and gas industry and might even have to concede that renewables like wind and solar are actually unreliable, whereas natural gas and fracking are a huge part of the future. Look, there was little doubt that when the Trump administration took over, they were going to be far friendlier to oil and gas development than the Trudeau Liberals. But to see how quickly the regulatory regimes in Canada and the US have evolved to become diametrically opposed is quite something. Canada is putting climate and carbon concerns ahead of our economic well-being with national carbon taxes and the phasing out of clean coal. Meanwhile, the US is stripping back job-killing regulations in their energy sector and seeing it flourish. But in particular, to see Alaska potentially score a hefty LNG investment, that makes it painfully clear that Canada's LNG industry is becoming irrelevant in the world of international investment, and we only have our government's regulations and high taxes to blame. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Thanks for watching. Keeping an eye on international oil and gas investment is a big deal to us because we know, unlike the Antis, it's not simply about low oil and gas prices. It has everything to do with Canada's job-killing regulations and job-killing carbon taxes. So make sure you never miss a video. Click subscribe on Rebel Canada's YouTube page.